I did biological sciences at Birmingham between 1976 and 1979. In fact, my career really started at that point. I was interested in biological sciences, but I hadn't any experience in cinematography. And then one day I was in the department in my final year, and there was a notice board, and it was advertising a photography course with the University of California in Yosemite National Park, which is a spectacular place in California. So I took 6 months off, got the money together, and then went off and spent 3 months in this magnificent scenery. And I accumulated a whole portfolio of landscape photographs. These were still photographs. And when I came back after that, I then went to London and suddenly thought, well, what am I going to do with this experience? And I happened to watch a wildlife film about ospreys. And it was like an epiphany. I sat there watching this film and I thought, I love wildlife. I've got a degree in biological sciences. I love photography. Maybe I could do that. Planet Earth, the original one, turned out to be a momentous series worldwide. And we had no idea that it was going to turn out like that. And one of the reasons it turned out like that was because there was new technology which involved gyro-stabilized cameras in helicopters. So suddenly, there was a lot of filming from helicopters from a great distance, effectively using a telephoto lens, which is what you use on the ground to get animal behavior. But suddenly, you could use that technology in the helicopter. And it uses very complicated gyro-stabilized systems from the military in the US, actually. So that made it different automatically. And it just became a phenomenon. And I was lucky enough to work on it for about 2 years. So I filmed wild dogs in Botswana and the whole flood arrival in the Okavango. I'd be filming desert lions in Namibia. I filmed Nubian ibex fighting in Israel, gelada baboons in the Ethiopian highlands. Just fantastic to be able to go to all these amazing locations worldwide. And then, of course, 10 years later, we had Planet Earth 2, which adopted a lot of the fans of Planet Earth 1, and then all the younger people basically knew how successful the first Planet Earth was, so they tuned in and made it even more successful the second time round. And I was lucky enough to be involved in both. My favourite project to work on, it's the time I spent with one family of elephants in Amboseli National Park in Kenya. So what we decided to do back in 1990 was make a soap opera, in effect, about one family of elephants, specifically a matriarch that led this family called Echo. And the idea of the producer at the time was to make a soap opera that would go on for a number of years. We didn't really think that it would necessarily go on for years, but in fact it did. And I followed this family for over 20 years until the matriarch died at the wonderful age of 65 of natural causes. So that was very special. We weren't filming continuously for all that time. Sometimes when we went back out to see them after not seeing them for months, they would recognize the sound of the vehicle, they would recognize our voices, and they would actually come and greet the car. Even the matriarch used to come out of her way to greet the car. There have been several times in my career when I've been very grateful for having a degree in biological sciences. I think when you interact with scientists in the field, with animals that you're just about to film, if you come at it as a scientist, as a qualified scientist, it really helps, because immediately you're talking the same language as the scientist that you're talking to. Whereas if I didn't have that sort of zoological background and knowledge, it would be much more of an uphill battle, I think. So I've really found having that degree of enormous benefit, I must say. Now, wildlife has become so popular that we're also making films for the cinema as well, which basically appeals to a different audience. It's a smaller audience, but it's a different audience. And having filmed for television for 30 years, to have the opportunity to film for the big screen is just fantastic. I mean, for a cinematographer, to have your stuff in the cinema is just wonderful. So I've worked on 2 Disney nature films, one called Chimpanzee and another one called Monkey Kingdom. And now we're working on another 2, which I can't tell you much about, but they'll come out in 2019 and 2020. And what's nice about those projects is that not only are they nice to film, because we have a long time in the field and it's for the big screen, but also Disney donate a lot of money to charity. So for instance, with the chimpanzee movie, every ticket that Disney sold, they made a donation to a chimpanzee project. That's a really nice position to be in, to work, A, for Disney, and B, for these big movies, but also they have a direct impact on wildlife worldwide.